Welcome to Barca News. It is July 10th, 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more updates in regards to Barcelona's preseason. Let's go, which is set to begin next week. I'm so excited. Also, Barcelona have completed the signing of Karim Adeyemi. And finally, we're going to talk about the 210 million euros that Barcelona are set to receive to boost their transfer budget and payment obligations. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Woo, and welcome to another Barca News podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but we also get to interact with you lovely people, my Barca News family, in the chat section by reading your comments live and reacting to them. Now, for those of you who'll be watching when the podcast ends, don't worry, we'll be putting timestamps in the description, the chapters in the timeline, in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Even though I do recommend you stay through the discussion, to me, it's usually the best part of the news. Now, having said all of that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys, merchandise, or jersey or merchandise from any football team around the world, you can hit to Goal Kits. If you're looking for any sports gear from any other sports, you can head to Fanatics. And if you're looking to place any sports bets, you can head to Bet Us. All links in the description. Click on them and get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. All right, let's begin with the news. And the first bit of news is that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have more details in regards to Barcelona's preseason, which is set to begin next week. I can't wait. I got to say, whenever summer comes, it's usually depressing because there's no Barcelona football. This summer wasn't as depressing, especially because, of course, the World Cup is going on. So much, much less depressing. Even though, I got to say, speaking of the World Cup, these quarterfinal matches so far have been incredibly boring. I don't know about you guys, but yesterday, of course, France defeated Morocco 2-0. Goals of Mbappe and goals of Dembele, by the way. How crazy is that? Did you guys see that penalty kick that was awarded to Mbappe? Wow. Talk about clear dive. Clear dive. Ref doesn't even go to see it at the VAR. Clear dive. Clear dive. And they still awarded him. Now, thank God he missed it, because that was justice. It would have been unfair that Mbappe would have made that, even though they still won in the end. But I got to say, man, just like Barcelona has La Masia, Real Madrid have their own academy. And that's, of course, the Royal Academy of Diving, right? And they have produced some of the best divers in the world. Vinicius, Birmingham, and now we're seeing Mbappe. You got to give it up to them. You got to recognize, you got to give credit where credit is due. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And the Royal Academy of Diving in Madrid does elite work. It's an elite academy, and yesterday we saw it, right? Mbappe, clear dive. Thankfully, he misses it. But again, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they still won. But this is to highlight one thing, right? If this had happened to Argentina, my God, the endless tweets and Instagram posts and reels and shorts and videos and podcasts. I mean, the world would have went nuts. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. France are through to the semifinal after beating Morocco in what was an incredibly boring match. And when I thought it couldn't get any boring, Spain and Belgium said, hold my beer. Or I guess Spain said, hold my, what's that? What's that drink? Sangria. Spain said, hold my sangria. Belgium said, I don't know, hold my chocolate. And they decided to give us even a bigger snooze fest. My God, another incredibly boring match. I fell asleep several times watching it. But Spain are through. Spain are through. Pedri's having a terrible World Cup. Lamine Yamal is looking like prime Ferran Torres. Ferran Torres is being Ferran Torres. God bless him. I don't know what's going on with Lamine and Pedri. Lamine, I guess I get it. He's been stopped. He's been like without any actions for 2 months due to injury. Pedri, I don't know. Is he tired? What's going on? And then Ferran is Ferran. You expect him to perform bad. But terrible, terrible World Cup by those three. Dani Olmo, another good match. I like what I saw from Dani Olmo. And of course, Kouarsi, to me, has been the best center back in the entire World Cup. I mean, he's been just phenomenal. But Spain are through. We have a Spain versus France semifinal. I really hope it's an exciting one, not like these two quarterfinals that put me to sleep. It should be on paper, be an exciting one. Two big teams going head to head. I mean, this is almost like it's actually like a final. It's like a PSG versus Bayern Munich in the Champions League, right? Hopefully. That's what I thought we were going to see today and yesterday about two incredibly boring matches. Tomorrow we have two more quarterfinals. England versus Norway, Kane versus Haaland, and then, of course, Argentina versus Switzerland, the only non-European nation left in this tournament. We'll see how far the GOAT will be able to go. Can you imagine Messi winning another World Cup, 2 World Cups back-to-back, and then at 39 years old? That'd be insane. But anyways, enough about the World Cup, Let's talk about Barcelona's preseason because it begins on Monday, right? It begins on Monday, and I'm very, very, very excited, even though many of the first-team players are not going to be available because, of course, they're either still in the World Cup or they're on vacation since their World Cup has already ended. But there will be some first-team players that haven't been called up, like Balde, Casado, Gerard Martin. Who else was not called up? Anyways, it doesn't matter. Chesney. And then, of course, the exciting thing about the preseason, it doesn't only mean that Barcelona football is almost back because La Liga still doesn't start till the end of August, but it means also we get to see youngsters, right? Preseasons are always exciting because we get to see a lot of these youngsters like, Ebrima Tunkara, we're going to get to see. We're going to get to see Hamza Abdel Karim with the first team. So very, very exciting news. But we have more updates to the preseason. Starting with, we know who will be our opponent for the Joan Gamper Trophy match. As you know, the Joan Gamper Trophy match, it's the last friendly match of the preseason. It's usually the weekend right before La Liga kicks off, where the winner gets handed the Joan Gamper Trophy. Joan Gamper, of course, is the founder of FC Barcelona, so the trophy is named after him. And well, our opponent is going to be Al Ahly, which is the Egyptian side. It's the biggest club in Egypt. It's one of the biggest and most honored clubs in all of Africa, actually, all the continent of Africa. That's where Hamza Abdel Karim has signed from. So Hamza Abdel Karim will get a chance to play against his former club, Al Ahly. And, I got to say it's an interesting choice, but I understand the strategy behind it because, first of all, we're talking about 110 million Egyptians. So what a way to access that market than by to play against their biggest club. Also, as you know, after the deal with Hamza Abdel Karim, Barcelona we're looking like to build ties and relationship with Al Ahly because Al Ahly being one of the biggest clubs of football in all of African continent, that of course could be a big gateway into the African continent. As you know, Barcelona are trying to strengthen their presence in the African continent and try to, identify and recruit African talent. So this could be another way to do that. Of course, Barcelona also have multiple agreements with local academies. They fund many of these academies. And in exchange, they get kind of like first dibs on young talent. And well, this is another way to do it. So I think it's strategically speaking, it's a great move. Barcelona playing against Al Ahly for the Joan Gamper Trophy match. When will that match be? It will be on August 19th at the Camp Nou. So it will be the first time we return to the Camp Nou since the season ended back in May. Which, of course, also we'll get to see the progress on the Camp Nou, which will be exciting. Now, there's more news. There's more news because we now know another opponent for Barcelona, another friendly match during the summer, and it's going to be against Preston North End, and it will be played on August 3rd behind closed doors. If I'm not mistaken, Preston North End are the winners of the EFL Cup. I could be wrong. I don't follow much English football, lower division English football, but Preston North End will be facing off against Barcelona behind closed door on August 3rd. And also, Barcelona will be traveling to Italy, where they're going to play a three-team tournament against Udinese and Nottingham Forest on August 3rd. So this is the full schedule of the preseason. Get some paper, get some pen, write it down. July 13th, which is next Monday, will be the first official day of the preseason. That's the day that the players will report to the Ciutat Esportiva to undergo medical exams. After that, they will continue training at the Ciutat Esportiva. 11 days later, on July 24th, Barcelona will play its first friendly match against Europa on July 24th. This will be at the Ciutat Esportiva behind closed doors, so you cannot attend in person. On July 27th, Barcelona will fly to England to St. George's Park, where they will continue their summer training. On July 30th, they will play against Birmingham City. It's going to be open to the public. August 3rd, they play against Preston North End behind closed doors, so no public. Then August 3rd, that same day, maybe the following day, they'll go back to Barcelona. On August 8th, they'll fly to Italy. They'll play that three-team tournament, come back to Barcelona again, and on August 19th, they'll play the Joan Gamper Trophy match against the Egyptian side Al Ahly. And then, of course, the following week should be the beginning of La Liga. So very exciting, again, preseasons. I love preseasons because it means Barcelona football is almost back, and because, well, we're going to get to see a lot of these youngsters playing with the first team and playing matches, and what more exciting than that? All right, let's start with the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Karim Adeyemi. Barcelona have another signing wrapped up. I see Valeriano says Ferran Torres to PSG. I saw those reports. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. K Slim says, greetings, Mo, from Florence, Italy. I'm kind of happy, though, that we are not spending on superstars with high expectations, but investing in Flick's project. In Flick, I trust. Well, if we sign Julian Alvarez, we would be spending crazy money on superstars, right? They're talking about a possible second offer of 130 mil, which would be absolutely insane. Because A, I don't think Julian Alvarez is worth 130 mil, but B, because it's a lot of freaking money, especially once I tell you the more news that we're going to talk about, especially about the 210 million euros that Barcelona are set to receive. Carlos says, hey, Mo, how true is Ferran to PSG? Apparently he accepted their offer. I hope we don't sell him for a bag of peanuts. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, I've seen those reports. We'll talk about it. Let's see. Where else? What else? Everybody talking about Ferran. Jason says, why Lamine Yamal got a man of the match because of his little younger brother? What? What does his younger brother have to do? Huh? I don't know what you're talking about. Everything Smart says, hey, Mo, are you going to any of the World Cup games? No, I refuse to partake in this sport-ruining event. And what do I mean by that? You know, I've talked about this in the past. I think this World Cup is FIFA's way to test the waters. We know football, for its entire history, has always been a sport that's accessible to everyone. If you want to splurge, sure, you can go spend $200 on a really good seat and, you know, watch the match really up close. But if you don't have the means to spend a lot, you can still get a seat for a game for like $20. Yeah, it might be in the upper decks, but it's still accessible, right? It's always been a sport that's accessible to everyone. And lately, we're starting to see a trend where they're not making it that way, right? They're making it more and more expensive. And of course, it's killing the sport, right? Because most people who used to be able to attend, a lot of them are not going to be able to attend. That includes people who are there like every single weekend cheering on the team, supporters section, things like that. They're not going to be able to afford that, right? And it's going to become more of a lot more corporate, right? With people just sitting in the stands and clapping, and, you know, it's kind of like what American sports are. If you go to American sports, they're boring as fuck because overall American sports are very expensive. So it's boring people who can afford it. But anyways, and I feel like this was FIFA's way to test the waters. How much can we get away with, right? And it's the most expensive World Cup in the history of football. Tickets go from $1,000, $2,000 up to $10,000, $13,000, $15,000. It's insane. And guess what? It's worked, right? Stadiums are selling out. People are getting into debt just to buy tickets. And I think that's a clear message to FIFA. And the clear message is people are stupid and no matter how much we charge, they're gonna pay it, whether they can afford it or not. They're gonna pay it. So it's gonna get more expensive. Expect football to become an incredibly expensive sport because, well, FIFA just realized with this World Cup that they can get away with it, and the people are still gonna pay it. So I'm not gonna partake in that. If they want to ruin the sport, I'm not gonna be part of, part of those efforts. Freedom TV says he has 1 year left. He paid 29 mil plus additional percentage when selling. You talk about Adeyemi? Okay, sure. Musa says after the assist against Portugal that eliminated Saudi, Camo, I fell in love with Ferran. He's a legend in my eye. Please stay, Ferran. And Tarsha says, and here I thought I'm falling asleep until I saw your live. Thank you, Bo. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you staying up and watching. Let's see. Bamiligali says, hey, Mo, what is our fate with signing striker now that Ferran has said yes to PSG? You think Alvarez deal will pull through? What if the deal fails like Nico? Who is the alternative signing? So we've talked about a lot of alternatives. The number one alternative to Julian Alvarez, if that falls through, is Junior Eli Krupi. Bortman said they would want approximately 100 million, which of course would be less than Julian, but it's also a bigger gamble than Julian because he is so young, right? He's 20 years old. And at that age, you really don't know whether they're going to continue on that trajectory of getting better and better, or are they going to plateau, right? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Krupi. I'm saying we don't know, right? So that's the alternative, the best alternative. There's other ones like Osimhen, for example. So there's a list of players that Barcelona have in case the Julian deal doesn't go through, but their number one favorite is Krupi from Bournemouth. As far as Ferran, Ferran doesn't affect the signing of Julian. Ferran was going to be the sub of Julian, but if he leaves, there's an alternative to that as well, which we're going to talk about it in a little bit. And then let's do the last comment before getting back to the news. But the Rebel Pilot says, Spain were so bad against Belgium today. The French team will run circles around them if they keep playing like that. I think I think Spain has been bad the whole World Cup. I truly believe that Luis de la Fuente is a terrible coach. He's a horrible coach. We saw it in the Nations League, right? Spain were up, 5-1 or 5-0 against France. He makes some horrible substitutions, some terrible decisions, and then I think the match ended 5-4, right? Like France almost tied it, and they almost blew the semifinal. We go to the final, another series of terrible decisions, and bam, Spain lose to Portugal. This World Cup, group stages, every group stage match had a different lineup. I don't think he even had his starting 11 picked before the World Cup. Luis de la Fuente was literally experimenting with his lineup during the World Cup. And it's like, bro, that's what the friendly matches are before to do. It's like, well, what are you doing? I think he's a horrible, horrible coach. I don't think he has any kind of innovation or creativity when it comes to formations or systems or style of play. I think he's just your typical coach, your typical mediocre coach that just picks a lineup and it's like, all right, go play and figure it out, right? So I think Spain has been having a really bad World Cup, period, even though they aren't through the semifinal. And it may sound contradictory, like, Mo, what do you mean? Like, bad World Cup. They're in the semifinal. They're the top 4 nation. But I think they're through their individual talent because obviously Spain is loaded with stars, right? But without like a clear direction on what to do and what to play, they will suffer against a team like France, which there's no need. There's no need. If they had a good coach, had they kept Luis Enrique, I think this Spanish team would be destroying everybody. And yeah, people might say, well, Luis de la Fuente won the Euros. Yeah, sure, he did win the Euros. But when he won the Euros, he had just taken on the team not too long ago. So he was riding the coattails of Luis Enrique because Luis Enrique is the one who started this project. He's the one who started building this project. But of course, they fire him not because he wasn't able, because I think in his first nation leagues, he finished, I think they made it to the finals and lost, didn't they? If I remember correctly. But anyways, they didn't fire him because of his failures. He was barely starting the project. He was barely building it. Like, had they given him more time, this Spain would have taken off and would have probably been the scariest team on earth. But they fired him because they didn't like him, right? In Madrid, they didn't like him. A former Barca player, former Barca coach, destroyed him when he was Barca's coach, made fun of him consistently in the press conferences, owned him time and time again. So that's why they fired him to bring in Luis de la Fuente. And he goes on and win the Euros with Luis Enrique's team. You know, he hadn't had enough time with them to imprint his own style or lack thereof, right? Now that he's had enough time with them, now you see Luis de la Fuente's Spain, a sluggish, very predictable Spain that has to depend on individualities, right? And I fear for what's going to happen against France because France attack looks insane, man. I mean, you saw yesterday against Morocco, I feel like they were going maybe 50, 60% intensity and 2 plays and 2 goals, and it's a wrap. And they take out all their players, and Dembélé is chilling on the bench, and Mbappe is chilling on the bench, and it's like they barely had to exert themselves. And I fear for what's going to happen in Spain. And honestly, it's all Luis de la Fuente. I think he's a terrible coach. He's another Ancelotti. He's just like, all right, here's the lineup. Go pick. Go figure out what to do. But anyways, we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to see, of course, Lamine Yamal in the final. But we'll see. All right, let's get back to the news. Because we do have to talk about, of course, Barcelona's newest signing, Karim Adeyemi, the 24-year-old attacker who used to play for Dortmund, not anymore, because it's official. Barcelona have reached an agreement to sign the German attacker. Now, I did a live yesterday in the morning where I told you that Barcelona had reached a full agreement with the player so he can join Barcelona for 5 years. It was a total agreement, meaning that everything was agreed to. The years, the salary, bonuses, blah, 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 blah. Everything was agreed. And then, of course, Barcelona also had submitted an offer to Dortmund worth 20 million euros, even though Dortmund had placed a 40 million euro price tag on Adeyemi. And I told you that even though the price tag officially was 40 mil, there were reports saying that Dortmund could settle for 30 mil, right? So somewhere in the middle, pretty much between the 20 mil that Barcelona had offered versus the 40 mil, which is the official price tag for Karim Adeyemi. And of course, I told you, don't rule out the scenario of Barcelona paying something close to the 30 mil, not the full 40, because of course, Karim Adeyemi's contract expired next summer, in summer of 2027. He had informed Dortmund that he did not want to renew, that he wanted to leave, and that he only wanted to go to Barca. So, of course, Dortmund didn't have much negotiating power, right? It was either get some money now or risk him leaving for free next summer. And, of course, some money now is a lot better than no money in the future. Now, despite that, Dortmund later in that day rejected Barcelona's 20 million euro offer. So Barcelona submitted another offer today, and that offer has been officially accepted. Now, what's the new offer? It's 22 million euros fixed, so 2 million more than their initial offer, plus 7 million euros in variables. Now, these variables are based on number of matches played and titles won. So the more matches Adeyemi plays with Barcelona and the more titles he wins with Barcelona, the more of those 7 million euros Barcelona will end up paying, maybe even all, which of course, if it means that Barcelona paid the full 7 million euros, well, it means that Adeyemi did really well with Barcelona, and 29 million total for a 24-year-old player who did well with Barcelona, played matches, won titles. Well, it's an absolute steal. Now, Adeyemi has agreed to join Barcelona for 5 seasons until 2031, and he will get paid a 6 million euro salary net per season. Dortmund were also able to negotiate a 35% sell-on clause. So if Barcelona ever decide to sell Adeyemi from here until 2031, Dortmund will get 35% of that transfer fee. But of course, that's usually not why Barcelona sign players. Barcelona sign players in order to keep them. Now, as I said during yesterday's live, of course, Adeyemi is a left-footed winger, but he mostly plays on the right. He is also capable of playing on the left and through the middle as a center forward, but he mostly plays on the right, which means we finally have depth on our wings, because that's something we definitely lacked yesterday. In fact, last season, I mean. In fact, a lot of the really bad periods of the season that we had during last season was usually because of that. For example, at the beginning of the season, we had Lamine Yamal with the pubalgia. He was out. We kind of struggled there a little bit. Then Rafinha was out. We also struggled there as well. And towards the end of the season, again, we saw Lamine Yamal, of course, be injured, which we also struggled with, but not as much because by then the season was mostly wrapped up. Now, why did we struggle whenever one of our wingers was injured? Because we didn't really have quality substitutions for them, right? If Lamine Yamal was out, his substitution was Rooney Bardghji, which, as we saw towards the end of the season, he was nowhere near ready to be a replacement for Lamine Yamal or to be a starter for Barcelona. And on the left, whenever Rafinha was injured, which he was injured, I think, 4 months of the season, which is a long time, we had Rashford. And with the Rashford, it was hit or miss, right? He either had a great match or he was absolutely horrendous. There was never a middle, right? It was hot and cold, and you never knew what version of Marcus Rashford you were going to get for that specific match. But now we have not only quality wingers, but we have quality substitutions as well. If Lamine needs rest, if he's tired, if he's suspended, if he's injured, boom. We have Adeyemi who could take his place. And on the other side, of course, Rafinha, if he's injured, if he's tired, if he needs a substitution for whatever reason, suspended, needs a rotation, bam, we have Anthony Gordon. So we finally have depth in our wing, quality depth in our wing, and that's very important because depth in numbers is not enough. You also need quality, right? You can have 10 wingers, but if 9 of them are absolute crap, that's not really depth. That's just numbers for the sake of numbers. So definitely a good move here by Barcelona, bringing Adeyemi, who was Hansi Flick's request. Flick requested the signing of Adeyemi. And if Hansi Flick believes that Adeyemi is a good signing, then I say I'm on board 1,000,000% because in Hansi Flick we trust. Now, Flick, of course, knows Adeyemi from his days back in Germany. When I mean in Germany, I mean the coach of the German national team. In fact, Adeyemi debuted with the German national team under Hansi Flick. So Flick, very aware of what kind of player he is, and that is why he personally requested him. Now, the crazy thing is that Adeyemi is only 24 years old, so he hasn't even hit his prime yet. And I'm sure under Flick, he will be completely unlocked. As we've seen, Flick can turn pretty much any player into a superstar. I mean, Gerard Martin was a Barca Athletic signing only. This wasn't a player that we signed because, he showed potential. We wanted him to join Barca Athletic first so he can learn and adapt and develop and then get promoted to the first team. No. Gerard Martin was just a Barca Athletic signing. That's it. He was like, he's good enough for 4th division. Let's sign him so he can play in 4th division and keep him there. Hansi Flick comes and turns him into freaking Prime Maldini, right? So it's if Hansi Flick can do that with Rafinha, for example, who was an average player for his entire career until Hansi Flick arrived, can you imagine what he can do with Adeyemi, who we've already seen what he's capable of doing for Dortmund? So definitely a good signing here. Of course, this is not a replacement for Julian Alvarez. Barcelona's number 1 priority is still Julian Alvarez for the number 9 position, but for now, that's on pause because Barcelona have spoken to Atletico Madrid and both clubs have agreed to sit down at the negotiations table once the World Cup is over for Argentina, right? If that's tomorrow, tomorrow they play, then I'm sure they'll talk next week. If it's after the final, then if Argentina makes it to the final, then it's after the final. Hopefully, it's the latter and not the former. Now, I have seen reports before before starting the live, that supposedly Ferran Torres has reached a verbal agreement to join PSG. I haven't been able to confirm it from sources that I'm familiar with that are close to the club. So I cannot say whether this is 100% true or not. What I can say for sure, which is something I told you weeks ago, is that PSG are interested in Ferran Torres. Luis Enrique has requested the signing of Ferran Torres, so we know PSG are interested for sure. We know Ferran Torres' contract expires next summer, 2027. He has yet to renew with the club. And when he was asked about it, I think it was right before the Cape Verde match, and he was asked about PSG's interest in him. His response was like, "I'm focused on the World Cup," and that was it, right? He's like, he didn't say, "Yeah, I also want to," but he also didn't close the door. He didn't say, "No, I just want to stay in Barca." So it was kind of like in the middle response, which kind of left the door open a little bit for PSG. So we know PSG are interested for sure. We know Ferran Torres did not close the door to PSG's interest when he was asked about it by the press. So there could be some truth to this that, yes, Ferran Torres is could be interested in joining PSG. Now, if Ferran Torres joins PSG, as I told you multiple times in previous videos, Barcelona already have a plan B for Ferran Torres. What's the plan B? It's, of course, Dusan Vlahovic, right? Dusan Vlahovic is already a free agent, right? His contract expired on June 30th, 10 days ago or 11 days ago. And he's offered himself to Barcelona time and time again. He has a very lucrative offer from Besiktas to join the Turkish side. But for now, he has told his agent to put that offer on hold because he still wants to wait for Barcelona. He wants to wait until after the World Cup to see what Barcelona does as far as the center forward. Now, Barcelona consider Vlahovic as a great alternative to Ferran, not to Julian. So if Ferran is supposed to be Julian's substitute, he leaves, Vlahovic would take his place as Julian's substitute, not as the starting number 9. Now, Barcelona have already met with Dusan Vlahovic's agent. They told him, hey, yeah, we're considering you, but just, you're not a priority. And that's why. And so Vlahovic is very aware of this. He wants to come to Barca. He's willing to reduce his salary. He's willing to take on a secondary role. He knows he's not a priority, and therefore he is willing to wait for Barcelona until after the World Cup to see what Barca does. So for now, again, as I haven't been able to confirm whether Ferran is truly interested in joining PSG. We know that PSG's interest is real. We know that Ferran hasn't closed the door on that. But if he does end up leaving, don't worry, there is a plan B, which is Vlahovic. Vlahovic would take Ferran Torres' place if Ferran leaves. Having said that, what do I think about this? If this is true, again, I haven't been able to confirm it. If it's true that, yes, Ferran has agreed verbally to join PSG, I think it's a win. Why do I think that? Because we can make money off Ferran. Ferran, technically, you could sell for 50 mil, but with 1 year left on his contract, obviously they're going to offer you a lot less. So even if we make 20, 30 million off Ferran, then you can sign Vlahovic for free. And that 30 mil that you just made off Ferran, well, that's a win. That could go towards funding the Adeyemi operation. Or even go towards the Julian Alvarez operation. And you would be substituting Ferran, who's not really a number 9, a center forward, with an actual center forward who is Vlahovic. To me, it would be a win-win. Again, you get rid of a guy who's not a center forward. You make money off getting rid of him. And instead, you replace him with a guy who is a center forward and who would come for free. So, again, haven't been able to confirm whether those reports are true. But if they are true, there's a plan in place, right? A contingency plan. And I think that contingency plan is actually a win for us. But again, I'll let you guys know whether those reports are true or not. Why am I doing this in the same segment? Because, of course, we are talking about wingers. And if people are wondering why Barcelona is signing many attackers, well, this could be one reason. Why? Because maybe Barcelona already knew or had a feeling that Ferran could be leaving. All right, let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about the 210 million euro boost that Barcelona have received. Let's see. Shockwave says, Mo, if Arsenal let Saliba leave for 90 million, would you be happy to take him at Barca? No, not for 90 million. And I tell you why. Because Hansi Flick doesn't want any center backs, right? Hansi Flick has said that he's happy with Pau Cubarsí and Gerard Maldini as his 2 starting center backs, that he wants attackers. He wants attackers that can press, attackers that can help with the defensive duties, which would help out Cubarsí and Maldini, and, of course, attackers who are quick and who could execute his plan. So if your coach is telling you, I don't need center backs, to go then and spend 90 million on a center back would be pretty crazy. This is kind of like your wife saying, "Hey, we need a fridge," and you're like, "All right, I'm gonna go spend I don't know $10,000 on a car," and it's like, why did you spend $10,000 on a car when your wife just told you we need a fridge, not a car? You already have a car. So no, I wouldn't. Let's see. Bum 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 bum. Zach Urban says, "I wish Luis Enrique comes back to Barca one day." So Luis Enrique is actually there's a chance that he could come back to Barca. He's never closed the door to that. In fact, if anything, he said that he would come back, as opposed to Guardiola, who's always said like, no, that's it, like that chapter is over. But yeah, that would be cool if Luis Enrique come. But let's not forget, only what was it? I think it was last season. Maybe the one before. We had literally fans here in the chat saying, "Oh, Luis Enrique is not a good coach. The only reason he won is because of MSN." And I'm like, well, that's a dumbass argument. I mean, who do you think Pep Guardiola won the treble with? With a bunch of bombs? No, he won it with the best Barca in history. All great coaches win important things with great teams because it's a team sport. Do you think? I mean, what you think if Pep Guardiola started coaching Girona tomorrow, Girona would win the treble like with no signings? No, of course not. And well, lo and behold, we were seeing that Luis Enrique is indeed great coach because then he won the treble with freaking PSG and he won back-to-back Champions League. But people will say the darnest things. Then he says, with the money Barca took out for transfer, if you were the sporting director, what other signing would you make for Barca to win the Champions League? I'll talk about that in a little bit. Red Devil says, we need Javi Guerra. Anything on Javi Guerra? Javi Guerra has been... Javi Guerra is a signing for the future, okay? Deco is a big fan of Javi Guerra. He's of that profile, like the box-to-box midfielder that can cover a lot of ground. But there's no urgency to sign him right now. Why? Because we have a million midfielders, right? So the plan is to sign him in the future when it's more attainable. Let's put it that way, right? Because Javi Guerra right now has a contract until 2029 with Valencia. Valencia have no intention of selling him. So Barcelona are okay with that. They're like, we have a million midfielders. That's fine. Stay in Valencia. Keep going. Keep development. And as you near that contract extension, obviously his price would go down. And then Barcelona could sign him in the future. He'll be older. He'll be better. He'll be more experienced. And, well, it'd be easier to sign him because there won't be as much time left on his contract as opposed to it is now. So Barcelona have met with him. They've told him, hey, we're interested in you. If you come, we could give you a 6-year contract. But that's not a signing for this summer, right? This is a future signing because why? Again, we have a million midfielders. Shackway says, if Ferran leaves, we need 2 strikers. If Rafa leaves, we need another winger. Plus, we need a very good backup for De Jong other than Bernal, Cancelo, plus... Well, if Ferran leaves, like I said, Vlahovic would be the option B to replace him. And Julian remains, the number 1 option for the center forward. If Rafinha leaves, we could technically need another winger, or we could have, Anthony Gordon as our starter and promote someone from the academy to be the substitute, or we can sign Virgili to be his substitute. There are options. As far as backup for De Jong, De Jong is the backup, my friend. I hate to break it to you, but De Jong is the backup. The starting double pivot is Pedri and Bernal. De Jong is the backup for Bernal or Pedri. And then there's Gabi, who could also be the substitute for both. And then, of course, we still have Casado, who could also be a substitute for both. And then Fermin and Olmo, obviously, for the attacking mid, even though Olmo, we've seen, he actually does pretty good in a double pivot position. So let's see. Sarah Global says, Mo, welcome to Adeyemi, the best club in the world. Amen, my friend. Amen. And let's see. Jason says, next season, Barcelona will win La Liga and España Spanish Super Cup again. España Spanish Cup. You mean the Spanish Super Cup? Let's see. Joe says, wait, I'm late. Bro, isn't that the Adeyemi deal 30 mil altogether? It's 22 mil fixed plus 7 million euros in variables. That's how much it is. Parsa says, Mo, I can't believe how Deco always manages to screw up right when you start trust him. I mean, 35% of any future sale. Whew, I know that is a lot. But at the same time, you know, Barcelona is not really a club that brings players. Usually, sell-on clauses work better when you're selling your a player or when you're selling your player to a selling club, right? Because okay, I might get a small transfer fee now, but I know I'm gonna sell him to this club, and then in that club he's gonna grow, his price is gonna skyrocket, and then they're gonna sell him, and I'm gonna take a chunk of that. So now I'm making two transfer fees, right? The original payment when I sold him, and then plus the payment when they sell him, right? But for a team like Barca, the only way we sell Adeyemi is if he absolutely fails. He's not a player we're bringing so he can grow, develop his price skyrocket, and then we can sell him for a profit, right? But no, you're right. I mean, 35% is pretty high. I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but maybe that is the thinking that was behind it, where we're bringing this guy, we're not bringing him to sell him. So maybe that's why they were like, okay, we'll agree. But I do agree. I think the highest I would ever agree to will be 20%, especially when the guy has a year left in the contract. Like, bro, you have all the negotiation power. Why are you letting them dictate such a high? Like, you could have easily said no. 20%. What are they gonna do? Say no? Okay, fine. We'll come back next summer. We'll take them for free. Anyway. Let's see what else. Joe Montana. He's the cousin of Hannah Montana. Says, did you see how good Kouarsi was today? Man, Kouarsi has been great the entire World Cup. Kouarsi has been imperial. I mean, he looks like this is his 5th World Cup. Like, just what an amazing defender. By the way, there were people last season in the chat section trashing Kouarsi, saying that he sucks and that he's overrated. God help us. God help us. Kiss My Axe says, Mo, do you think Barca will sign Van de Ven? No, there's no intention to sign center backs right now. The priority remains, of course, we got to finalize the signing of Cancelo. There's a verbal agreement in place with Al Hilal. Right now, they're finalizing the last bit of details. So we want to finalize Cancelo. And then after that, Julian. But right now, center back is not on Barca's radar. Now, if we finish, and of course, if Ferran leaves, then we have to worry about bringing Vlahovic, right? But let's say Ferran leaves, we make some money off that. We're bringing Vlahovic, we're bringing Julian, we're bringing Cancelo, and then Barcelona look around and like, all right, well, we still have some money left, maybe some financial fair play. Then maybe Barcelona could consider a center back. Would I want Van de Ven? I think he's another Araujo, and we already have that. Let's see. Shockwave says Nunez and Vlahovic are literally the same, but Nunez presses more. No, I think Nunez is great combining with his teammates and creating chances. His problem is once he's in front of goal, he just forgets that in football you have to push the ball under the 3 posts, not over or to the sides. That's the problem with Nunez. Let's see. Boom. Carlos says De Jong is the backup. My friend made me laugh. De Jong is definitely the backup. Yeah. Everything Smart says, hey Mo, what will make you change your mind, your Ming and Alvarez? Your mind about Alvarez. I'm guessing that's what you're trying to say. I mean, about what? About his price? Nothing. He's just not worth that. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a great player. And I think he would, add a lot to the team, but not for 150 or 130 or shit, even 100. I think Julian is worth 90. That doesn't mean he's bad. It's just, if you're not worth that, you're not worth that, I think Kouarsi is amazing, but would I pay 150 million to sign him? No, because no defender is worth that. Even though to me Kouarsi has the biggest ceiling in all of Europe, and I think he will be the number 1 defender in all of Europe. I mean, how much is a great defender go for in these days? 70 mil. So why would I pay double, even though I think he's the best? Right? It's like you gotta pay for what people is what players are worth and not more. But anyways, let's do the last bit of news. And then we'll continue with the comments, I promise. But the last bit of news is a big one. It's a big one. And that is that Barcelona are set to obtain a 210 million euro boost, which will be A, to fund transfers, and B, to fund payment obligations. Now, the 210 million euros will arrive in two parts. 105 million euros this month of July, and another 105 million euros that will arrive in November. So I'm guessing the 105 that arrives this July, that will be towards transfers. The other 105 in November will be towards payment obligations. Payment obligations are, of course, salaries, bills, anything the club needs to pay, right? The club's expenses, if you want to put it that way. Now, where are these 210 million euro coming from? They're not going to come out of thin air, of course, or grow on trees. They're coming from senior media bonds tied to Barcelona's TV rights. In other words, Barcelona will sell bonds that are tied to the TV rights, and that's how they're going to generate 210 million euros. And then they will pay back that money that they're going to borrow from the bondholders through their TV rights. Okay, so it kind of works like an advance, right? You're saying, okay, I expect to make, let's say, we're going to use just like small numbers to make it easier. I expect to make over this whole fiscal year from here until next June 30th, $10 in TV rights. Okay, but I have to wait until the whole fiscal year is over to make those $10, right? Because I'm making $1 here, $1 there, and $1 next month, $1 the following month. So it's going to take me until next year to make the full $10. But I need the $10 right now. So what do? I borrow $10 from you. So now I have my $10 right now. And as the year goes by, I pay you back slowly as I start making money from my TV rights. Oh, I made $1 in September. Here you go. Oh, I made another $1 in October. Here you go. And like that until I pay you back the money that I borrowed from you. Okay? So these 210 million euros will come from senior media bonds tied to Barcelona's TV rights. In other words, Barcelona are borrowing 210 million euros so they can have the money ASAP. And then as the year goes by and Barcelona make money from the TV rights, they will pay back that loan from the money they're making from their TV rights. Now, very important to clarify because, right, the Madrid media, all those idiots are all like, oh, another economic lever, ha, ha, ha. This is not an economic lever. No way, form, or shape is this an economic lever. Now, what am I talking about economic levers? Remember, I think it was summer 2022. I remember the channel was pretty new when I was talking about economic levers. That's when Barcelona sold assets to make money. Barcelona didn't have money. They were broke. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. There was no liquidity, no cash. So they sold assets to make money. What's the difference there? Well, when you sell an asset, that's it. That asset is not going to generate more money for you. You sold it. So yeah, you make money right then and there by selling the asset, but that's it. Then you don't make money off that asset any longer, right? This is like if you were owning an apartment, a rental unit, right? An apartment that you rent out to people, and that apartment is making you $1,000 every month. But you're like, damn, I need money right now. So you sell the apartment. You sell it for $100,000. It's like, great, I have $100,000 right now. Oof, I'm cash rich. Let's go, make it rain. Strip clubs, cocaine. Let's do it. But once you run out of those $100,000, that's it, right? You're not gonna be making $1,000 a month because you sold that apartment. Those how the economic levers work. Barcelona sold assets. They sold 25% of their TV rights. They sold 49% of Barca Studios. They got money. But once that money was gone, that's it. They're not going to make money off those assets. Well, the TV rights, they sold them for 25 years or 20 years. So in 20 years, they'll get them back. But anyways, here it's a loan. Here you're not selling your TV rights. You're still making money off your TV rights every year. You're borrowing money and then paying that money back through the money that you make off your TV rights. Okay? So it's not a lever. So don't listen to the idiots and the Madrid media tell you this is another economic lever. But, just like there are idiots in the Madrid media who trash everything that Barcelona do, there's also idiots in the Barca media who try to praise everything the club do and make it seem like everything's amazing, just like the other idiots make it seem everything's terrible. And what am I talking about? Well, there's some people in the Barca sphere who are trying to make this like, whoa, this is not debt. This is an advance, right? We're just making the money right now and then paying it back. So it's not debt. Okay, let me clarify something. Bonds are debt, okay? Like, don't listen to those idiots either, because bonds are debt, okay? When you borrow money from selling bonds, you have to pay that money back. And when you borrow money, not only do you have to pay the money that you borrowed back, you also have to pay interest. And you also have to pay borrowing fees. So there's an associated cost with that. So yeah, we might be borrowing 210 million and paying that back from the money we make off our TV rights, but we're not paying back 210 million. We're going to pay him a lot more than what we borrowed because, well, interest and borrowing costs. So it's not an economic lever. We're not selling our TV rights. We're going to keep our TV rights, but it is debt, okay? And again, 105 million are going to come now to fund our transfers. 105 more will come in November to pay the club's expenses. Why are Barcelona borrowing money to pay the club's expenses? Well, it all has to do with the stadium, with the Spotify Camp Nou, because the Camp Nou is behind on schedule. It's very behind on schedule. What a surprise. Barcelona hired a company that had zero experience in building stadiums. Oh, lo and behold, they're very behind on schedule. So what happened is that under the schedule, the VIP boxes were supposed to be open already. And Barcelona were supposed to be making money off those VIP boxes. Those VIP boxes are not going to open till the end of the year. So that income that Barcelona were counting on from those VIP boxes, they're not going to receive until the end of the year. So Barcelona's budget is going to be short because they can't make money out of those VIP boxes because those VIP boxes are not ready yet. So because Barcelona is going to be short on money, they're borrowing 105 million euros from their TV rights to pay the club's expenses and then pay back that debt from the TV rights as the year continues to roll on. So, where do I stand with this? This is worrying for me. This is very, very worrying. Now, usually bonds have a much lower interest rate than had Barcelona went and borrowed 210 million from the bank. But nonetheless, it's still debt. It's still debt yet that you have to pay back. It's still debt that you have to pay interest on. It's still debt that you have to pay fees on. And to top all of that, remember the 1.5 billion we borrowed for the Espai Barça project, not for the Camp Nou, for the entire Espai Barça project that includes the Camp Nou, that includes the Palau Blaugrana, that includes the campus surrounding both stadiums. That money's all gone. And the stadium is not complete. And Barcelona are going to have to borrow another 300 million just to complete the stadium. Which means how much more are we going to have to borrow to do the Palau Blaugrana and the campus? That is worrying. Why? Because let's do the math. Barcelona have 1.4 billion euro debt, operational debt from the Bartomeu years. Well, it was less. Under Laporta that grew. 1.4. Okay. Barcelona borrowed 1.5 for the Espai Barça project. That puts us at 3 billion. Now you borrow 300 million more for the stadium, plus another 210 for transfers and payment obligations. We're at 3.5 billion, ladies and gentlemen. That is worrying. That is worrying for me. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of freaking debt. And I know it's all riding on the stadium. You know, they're estimating the stadium could make us 400 million euro a season. But that's still a lot of freaking debt. And that to me is worrying. In fact, the way we were able to find out about this bond sale was in Barcelona. Barcelona didn't release this. We found this out through a report by Morningstar. And Morningstar is a credit rating agency that just lowered Barcelona's credit rating agency. Credit rating, sorry. Now, what is a credit rating agency? A credit rating agency is an agency just specializes studying companies, right? They study the company, okay, how financially healthy a company is, how much money they're making, how much they're spending, what's their future projection, how much is their debt. And based on that, they give you ratings, recommendations. Okay, this company is very healthy, right? They have almost no debt. They're making a shitload of money. We're projecting they're gonna make a lot more money, even more. They're gonna grow like crazy. So they give it a triple A, right? That's the highest rating. You see that and you're like, oh, well, triple A, that's the highest rating. That's a company I want to invest in because they're making a crap load of money. They're growing like crazy, no debt. I mean, that is healthy as it comes, right? That's what a credit rating is. It's how healthy a company is, and that tells investors how much money they can, whether they want to invest in a company or not, right? Triple A is the highest. Double A is the next. Then there's A. Then there's triple B. Okay. Barcelona rating right now is triple B, which just means adequate. It's not great. It's not good. It's not very good. Just adequate. Anything else below triple B, like a double B or a B or a triple C, it's junk status. It's not something you want to invest in, right? Now, Barcelona's previous rating was triple B positive, which means it's adequate, but it's starting to go up, and the next step could be A, from triple B to A. Now it got changed from triple B positive to triple B stable. If it gets rated triple B negative, that means Barcelona's credit rating is going down, right? We were triple B, adequate, positive. It means we're adequate, but trending up. Now it got changed to triple B, which means stable, which means we're adequate, but flat line. We're not going up, we're not going down. And that is worrying, right? That is worrying. Let's hope for the best. Let's pray. Let's hope the stadium, once it's complete, it can truly generate 400 million euros and help Barcelona pay its debt obligations. Let's hope the team continues to win so we can continue making money from prizes. You know, winning tournaments, you get paid prizes, TV rights. Let's hope our merchandising continues to increase and we can continue to make money off selling merchandise. Let's hope we can continue signing sponsorships so they can continue bringing us money. Let's hope we can continue to make money, a lot more money than what we're spending, so we can, well, pay off these debt, because Laporta's digging us a hole. You know, people love to blame Bartomeu, but, and don't get me wrong, a lot of this was caused by him. But Laporta's also not getting too far with these kind of debts, especially if we go and spend 130 on Julian. Tell me what the difference is there. But anyways, that is all for the news. Let's do more comments. That's French for comments. It's not. Just made it up. Or maybe it is. I don't know. And then we'll wrap up. But let's see. Joe says, I remember Adeyemi was worth 100 plus. This is a steal. I don't think his value ever reached 100. I think it reached like 60 or 70. Let me see. Let's look at transfer market. Karim Adeyemi. What was your highest market value, my friend? Let's see. According to the highest he reached, yeah, it was 60 mil, which is still a steal. We're paying 22 fixed right now. So we're getting him a third for what his highest value reached. Not to mention, Dortmund paid 35 million for him. So we're getting him even for less than what Dortmund paid for him. So, Nabid. Let's see. Oh, whoa. Chill. My chat went just fired up. Where did we go? Where did we leave? Right here. Tito says, hey, Mo, PSG does want Ferran. Would it be a good idea for Barca to ask PSG to include Barcola in the deal so Barca could get a break in the price? No, because what are we going to do with Barcola? Have 3 left wingers and just collect wingers like Madrid does? No. Let's see. Carlos says, have you noticed how Real Madrid players act so different in their national team? They are very entitled at Real Madrid. Real Madrid really trains their players to cry and argue everything. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, look at Birmingham. Birmingham was an incredibly lovable guy at Dortmund. He was like down to earth, super hard working. His interviews were always like funny and like this just great guy. You're like, that's a guy I could drink some beers with. He gets to Madrid and it's just like he's this like arrogant prick who's always diving, is always complaining, always yelling at the refs. And it's like there really is. I think it's just how the atmosphere of their locker room is, you know. But better for us, right? Barca Reloaded says, thank you for answering my question on Ferran Torres and PSG. Of course, my friend, of course. That's what I'm here for. Let's see. Kevin says, you got to keep in mind how the market is right now for Julia. Is that what we talking about? Alvin says, not many fans know about that loan money. They think they really loan like that. What do you mean? Blarana X says, sup Mo, have you heard Rafa Marquez will be in the Mexico national team head coach? Yeah, my friend, ever since he left. So when he joined the Mexican team, national team, that was the agreement, that he would join as an assistant coach to Javier Aguirre until the World Cup. And then after the World Cup, he would take over the Mexican national team. So that was always the deal from the moment he joined Mexico's team, national team. But I honestly think Mexico's great performance during the World Cup is thanks to him. I don't know. Watching Mexico play, I saw Barca Athletic under Rafa Marquez. Like I thought I was watching Barca Athletic under Rafa Marquez. So I truly think we are already seeing his effect on the Mexican national team. Of course, we're going to see it a lot more now that he's going to become the head coach. But yeah, I was aware of that. That was the deal from the beginning. Let's see. Nadi says, hey, Mo, can you check if Ferran is ready for a move to PSG? So I talked about that in a little bit, a while back or a few moments ago. Let's see. Y216 says, hey, Mo, if you are a betting man, who are you betting on for the France Spain game? Thanks for all you do, bro. That's a tough one. I mean, obviously on paper, it would be, you could easily say France, right? Because they're doing much better than Spain. But of course, you cannot underestimate Spain. They still have, if Lamine Yamal has a great match, he can end Spain, right? Single-handedly. We saw the goal that he scored against them in the Nations League, right? But if I had to pick one gun to my head, not that I'm not really a betting man, I guess I would pick France, even though I really want Spain to win. Java the Hut says, which team do you think has been more disappointing, Spain or Portugal? I think Portugal because Spain have reached semi-final. I think Spain, even though they have gone further and even though they beat Portugal. But, I mean, I expected a lot more from Spain because on paper they have a lot better players than Portugal. Not that Portugal hasn't been disappointing, it was. And I think Portugal's mistake was succumbing to the pressure of the fans wanting to see Penaldo, right? Because what was that coach from their last World Cup? I forgot his name, but he was brave enough to bench Penaldo and only bring him in for limited amounts of time, knowing the limitation of Penaldo, that he was, older and is not the same player. And he obviously got a lot of flack for it. In fact, they blame him not playing Penaldo for Portugal's elimination out of the World Cup. So I feel like with Roberto Martinez, he tried to kind of like please the fans and have Penaldo start every match and play 90 matches. And I think that bit him in the ass because, bro, he's 41. He's not the same player. Like, of course, he's not going to perform the way he used to perform. And you should have known that. In fact, against, who did they play against in the round of 16? I'm forgetting. I've seen so many matches. Croatia. As soon as he came out, the team got better. But I think what happened is because he did score 2 goals against Uzbekistan, that gave Roberto Martinez the fake confidence that, oh, wow, it's still that Penaldo's still in there. So he made the mistake of continue to rely on him. And I mean, what did he do against Spain? Was he even on the field? I don't remember. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. Portugal was disappointing, but even though we expected more out of Portugal, the expectation for Spain were a lot higher because they do have much better players and they are the Euro champions, right? David says if Spain plays like today, they will lose to France. What do you think? I think so too, my friend. And Glenn says no, the club wanted 100 mil. I remember them demanding that. Who, Dortmund? I mean, all right, we talk about market value or are we talking about demands? Because those are two different things, right? What a player is worth versus what his club is asking for. Because, you could be, a club could ask whatever the hell they want for you, right? Now, whether you're worth that, that's a whole nother question, right? For example, Julian's market value is 90 mil. Atletico are saying 150, right? You can ask whatever the hell you want for a player. That's different from actual market value. But anyways, that is all. That is all. That is all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching the podcast. Thank you for your comments. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching this once it ends, drop a comment so I can read it. Or if you're watching this live, still drop a comment. Maybe I didn't get to see your comment in the chat section. I do read all the comments, so drop it there. And finally, don't forget to hit the like button. Incredibly important for the channel. In fact, the most important thing you can do for the channel is hit the like button. And with that, I bid you adieu. I will see you guys tomorrow with more videos. So that's it. Have a good night. And as always, bis cars.